From the moment we are born, something happens that we never agreed to but can never escape. A government issues us a birth certificate, assigns us an identity number, and registers us in its system. That system decides where we belong, what rights we have, and ultimately how free we really are. We like to think of this as citizenship, but if we look more closely, it begins to resemble ownership. We grow up believing we are free to think, to move, and to live as we please, and yet that freedom is only permitted within the boundaries a government has set, and the moment we step outside those lines, the illusion falls apart. A child does not choose its country. The state records and categorizes them from birth, and from that moment onward, the framework of laws, obligations, and duties applies. Try living outside of that system, and you will quickly discover the reality of statelessness. Without papers, without nationality, you are treated as if you barely exist. You cannot open a bank account, you cannot legally work, and in many places you cannot access education or healthcare. In some parts of the world, children grow up without documents and spend their entire lives in limbo, unable to provide that they are real in the eyes of the law. This is not freedom, this is dependency, and your very existence is recognized only because the state allows it. We are told that we are free, but in practice we are free only as long as we obey. Refuse to pay your taxes and your property or income can be seized. Break a law that you disagree with and you may lose years of your life in prison. In some countries, you refuse military service and you face jail time, exile, or punishment. This is freedom with conditions. It is not something you inherently possess, but something that can be suspended or revoked. Your rights exist only as long as you remain within the boundaries of what is permitted. And if they can be taken away at any moment, can we then really call them rights at all? Now think about travel, one of the simplest ways of expressing freedom. To leave your country, you need a passport. But a passport is not a symbol of freedom, it is a proof of ownership. It declares that you belong to a particular government and that that government grants you permission to leave, but only under its own terms. Without it, you cannot legally cross borders, and even with it, your freedom to move depends on international deals or hierarchies. A German passport allows entry into nearly 190 countries, while a passport from Afghanistan or Syria allows access to almost none. The worth of a human being in the eyes of the world is not measured by who they are, but which government claims them. Borders turn the planet into a network of cages, and passports decide whether your cage is spacious or suffocating. But ownership doesn't stop with your country. Governments themselves are often bound by even larger structures of power. When Greece's economy collapsed in 2010, the International Monetary Fund forced strict measures on the country. Pensions were cut, hospitals closed, the citizens were left desperate, and all that to satisfy financial institutions far removed from their daily lives. Powerful blocs like the European Union or NATO impose rules that even elected leaders cannot easily escape. And the global financial system, through trade, debt, and surveillance, ensures that no country can ever be fully independent. If entire governments must bow to these higher powers, what does that mean for us as individuals? It means we are not only possessions of our nations, we are also resources. We're taxpayers, workers, populations, traded and managed in a global system of control. And yet, ownership is not maintained by force alone. It is also maintained in the mind. From early childhood, we are taught to salute the flags, sing anthems, and pledge loyalty to our nation. These rituals seem harmless, even noble, but their purpose is to shape our identity before we are old enough to question it. Why must a child swear allegiance to a state before they can even understand the word? Why must patriotism be drilled into us at such a young age? And the answer is actually quite simple. A citizen who sees their nation as sacred is far less likely to resist. If you see your cage as a source of pride, you won't notice any bars. Some argue that if you dislike your country, you can leave. But leave to where? To another country with its own taxes, its own laws, and its own punishments? You're not escaping ownership, you are only switching your masters. Even the process of changing citizenship reveals the truth. You must request one government to release you, while another must agree to take you. It is not your free choice, it is a transfer of possession, really. And if either of the two parties decide that you are not allowed to switch, well, that's your problem now. There is no real outside to run to. The world is built in a system of states, and every state demands ownership of its people. So let's be clear, we are not entirely free. We are registered at birth, managed through laws, taxed, punished, and restricted. Our governments claim us, and above them, even greater powers claim the governments themselves. The question is not whether we are owned, but how tight the chains are, and whether we are willing to recognize them for what they are. Now, perhaps this is not the whole picture. I mean, perhaps I've painted it a little too dark. Maybe there is another side to it, a side where the system provides structure, stability, even protection to its citizens. To test this idea, I want to take everything I have just said and submit it to ChatGPT. Let's hear if it will defend the system, if it will be on my side, or maybe it just argues that ownership is not enslavement but a necessary order. Let's find out.
I see what you're saying, and I feel the weight of it, but I think calling it ownership might be too sharp. Governments do bind us, yes, but they also coordinate things that individuals alone can't. Roads, schools, hospitals, public health, those aren't cages in themselves. They're the infrastructure that makes daily life possible. The problem is that those same systems that give us stability also give the state leverage to control us. Take passports. On the surface, you're right. They function as proof that we belong to a government, and without them, we're stuck. But they're also defended as safeguards, a way to stop trafficking, to limit epidemics, to enforce some order in a world where anyone moving anywhere could lead to chaos. So in that sense, they're both, a chain and a shield. That duality is what makes them so effective and so hard to argue against. And when you move beyond the state to global structures, it gets even murkier. Greece's crisis wasn't just the IMF pulling strings. It was years of debt, corruption, dysfunction, and then the IMF stepping in to dictate terms. Same with NATO or the EU. Smaller states join because they want protection or economic benefits, but the trade-off is real. They give up slices of sovereignty in exchange for survival. In a way, even governments are caught in the same trap as citizens. The ruled and the rulers both bow to something above them. As for leaving one country for another, I'd be careful there. It's not always just new master, same cage. Some cages are vast, gilded, almost invisible, while others are suffocating. A North Korean who makes it to South Korea isn't simply trading one set of chains for another. Their horizon changes completely. Yes, the structure is still there, but the lived experience of freedom is worlds apart. So maybe it's less about whether we're owned and more about how much room the cage allows us and how much of our own weight we carry versus how much is carried for us. The fact that it isn't pure ownership, but something that mixes control with protection is what makes it such a complicated knot.
I really like how that response framed it, and maybe it's not just about the ownership in the raw sense, but about this strange mix of control and protection that governments hold over us. And I think that's the balance that I want to leave you with, because in the end, I'm not here to hand you a one-sided truth. What I want these videos to do is to make you stop, think, and maybe argue back, even with me. That's why I also let AI push against my own words here, so it doesn't become just another influence piece telling you what to believe. So what do you think? Do you see signs of this ownership in your own life, or in stories that you've heard? Or do you feel like the system is more complicated, maybe even protective in ways that I've overlooked in my analysis? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear real experiences and perspectives. And of course, if this video got you thinking, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and share the video with someone who enjoys these kinds of questions as well. And if you want to keep exploring more videos with thought-provoking ideas like this, click on one of the videos popping up on your screen right now. Each one is meant to challenge the way we see the world. Until next time, take care and keep thinking.